New Balance wanted to create the plushest, softest running experience with the More version 4. And at least in my initial review, this shoe delivered. But would that feeling last past the initial honeymoon phase? It's time to lace up the More version 4 for one more run and talk about it after 100 miles. 10.96 miles, 9 minutes, 15 seconds per mile, going for a nice and easy run in the More version 4, so I could talk about it after 100 miles. And before I give you my thoughts on this shoe and how it's held up over the miles, I do want to go over some disclosures. This is a pair of shoes that I purchased myself. No one sent it to me and no one's paying me to make this video. However, I do think that I should also disclose that I recently did some work with New Balance leading up to the New York City Marathon, where they did provide me a bib for the New York City Marathon and some travel accommodations. And they also did provide me with a second pair of the Fresh Foam More version 4, the white New York City Marathon edition. So with that disclosure out of the way, let's talk about the Fresh Foam More version 4. Now, I've already gone over the specs in the shoe in my initial review, and so none of that stuff's gonna change, but what I really wanna focus on in the 100-mile update is how I've ended up using that shoe in case that's changed over time and how the shoe's really been holding up. Now, in terms of how I've been using this shoe, I've been using it as my long run shoe, my recovery shoe, and my easy day shoe. So for those days where I want the most comfort or what New Balance is hoping for, that plushest, softest experience, that's when I've been reaching for this shoe. It's got 35 or about 34 millimeters of that Fresh Foam X midsole foam in this shoe, and it is absolutely fantastic. That 4 millimeter drop is really comfortable for those days where you want to take it nice and easy, where you want to be a little bit more relaxed, have your easy days be easy days, and it is an absolute delight to have for those kinds of runs. There is an airy squishiness to the foam this year. Fresh Foam X is a foam that New Balance has been tinkering with aggressively over the years, and this year I feel like they've done a fantastic job of getting that balance between absorbing cushion but also having spring back and not having it be a very dense experience. I don't think it's the fastest shoe because it does have a very wide base and there is a lot of foam here. It's the most Fresh Foam X that they've ever put in a shoe, so there's a lot here. It's not incredibly heavy at 10.4 ounces or 295 grams, so it doesn't feel like you're paying too much a penalty for all that comfort. Another benefit that you're getting from all this foam and from the width of this platform is that it is a nice and stable ride. So even on certain days where I'm taking it on some softer surface that may not be quite so smooth and even, I still feel like I have plenty of support every time my foot hits the ground. Now let's talk about how this shoe is held up over the last 100 miles. And I feel like this shoe looks like it's hardly even been touched. The upper looks absolutely pristine. It'd be impossible to tell how many miles this shoe has based on the upper. And also the foam in the midsole is surprisingly holding up well. A lot of times when you have these airy foams, they tend to compress a lot over the miles. And when you look really closely at the foam in the More version 4, there is that like light level of creasing that you might start to see, but overall the foam is holding up really well. I still feel just as comfortable in it now as I did when it was fresh out of the box. And I actually have, in this case, a kind of like apples to apples comparison or a 0 to 100 comparison to do as well. So this shoe, I got to 100 miles the week before the New York City Marathon, and the white New York City Marathon edition of the More version 4 that I have is a pair that I did not wear until I got to New York. I ran 2 shakeout runs in them, and then I did the travel day after the marathon in the More version 4, a fresh, brand new pair. Even for travel, which I think is kind of like the toughest thing for a running shoe to handle well, because my feet, I don't know about you guys, but my feet tend to swell a lot. I don't know if it's the dehydration or the elevation and the pressure changes or what, but my feet really tend to swell a lot, especially after I've run a marathon. If I'm in an airplane, if it's a travel day, the More version 4 was a very pleasant pair of shoes to have on my feet. And while I did notice a slight difference on like immediate step in, like I feel like the insole felt a little different, when I was running in the shoe, I really didn't feel like, oh, this is what the fresh one feels like, and this is what the 100-mile one feels like. There is very consistent performance across the board, a high level of that squishy comfort throughout those 0 to 100 miles in the shoe, and I feel like that means the shoe is going to last you a very long time. Speaking of that durability though, let's take a look at the outsole of the shoe. For the most part, in the highest wear areas that I normally see wear and tear in terms of the rubber wearing down, I'm seeing very little degradation. There's a spot here on each foot, right on the pads of the feet. There's only just the beginning signs of some of that rubber starting to kind of shave or grind down, and then the other spot that I tend to see a lot of wear and tear, which is on this outside of the heels, I'm seeing very little wear in there at all. And so I'm impressed with the way that this rubber is holding up. Again, another layer of durability built into a shoe that is extremely comfortable and gives you that effortless cruise control for those slow long runs or those easy runs or recovery runs. So I really feel like you're getting the best of both worlds here. It's really comfortable and it's long lasting. Those two things tend not to go together in shoes like this. So overall, I'm extremely impressed with the Fresh Flow More version 4. It was my max cushion shoe of the year in 2021 for More version 3. And in 2022, More version 4, it's definitely going to be my best max cushion shoe of this year as well. One quick note, I do think that we need to kind of differentiate between what we've been calling max cushion and this new burgeoning subgenre of like these super stack shoes that are even taller than 40 millimeters in stack height and may or may not have a carbon fiber plate or kind of racing foams. I feel like that's a separate kind of subcategory used very differently than these max cushion shoes. But for those days where you want those easy miles, those recovery miles, or that long, slow distance, that kind of like, I guess, old school max cushion, the More version 4 is definitely making sure that that subgenre keeps up with technology and is giving us fresh, new ways of staying comfortable on those long runs. So those are my thoughts on the Fresh Flow More version 4 after 100 miles. If you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the comments down below, or better yet, stop by the live stream that I do Monday through Friday right here on YouTube. I'd love to talk to you guys in the chat. That's all I have for today, everybody. Thanks so much for making it all the way to the end of the video. Hopefully you guys are staying safe out there on your runs, and I will see you in the next one.
Yo, what's going on?